Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jay Singh, and I'm the founder of Publication Academy, your online training partner for higher ed career advancement and professional development. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today for this installment of our Career Pathway series, Exiting Academia. Today, we have a fascinating interview with Alana Varricchio, who successfully transitioned from completing a master's in medical science into the exciting industry vertical of pharmaceuticals. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Over now to our amazing Publication Academy interviewer, Dr. Gertrude Nantra.
Hello everyone, Dr. G. Nantra here, and today I am super excited to have a guest all the way from Australia, Alana Varricchio. Welcome, Alana.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's jump right in and talk about your educational background and what precipitated your move out of academia.
Yeah, so educational background. I started off in a PhD in science. I'm based in Adelaide, and yeah, about 6 months in, I made that pivotal move where I thought, I'm not quite sure if this is for me, and I started kind of wondering what else are my options. And that was when I decided to have a look and see what jobs are available to me in industry. And yeah, I ended up, long story short, ended up getting a job in medical information and transferring into a master's degree. So I still got to kind of wrap up my education, but I didn't end up pursuing a PhD. So I kind of got my foot in the door of industry early. And then, did you want me to go into how I got to where I am now from there?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So you got a master's degree. Repeat what you got a master's degree in.
Oh, yes, sorry. I should have said that. It's a master's degree in drug design and physiology.
Drug design and physiology. Amazing. And then from there, you moved into a career in industry doing what?
Yeah, medical affairs basically. So started off in medical information and then moved into medical affairs associate. And at the moment, I've just reached my 60-day milestone with Pfizer, and I'm an MSL. I think there's different names for it, but we're an MSL,
Yeah.
medical
So,
science liaison.
right. So within the US, I know the terms differ a little bit, but I know universally MSLs are the people that are the liaisons between the company and the key opinion leaders who are in the clinical research space, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. What this is something that a lot of people struggle with. They get into PhD programs, they realize this is not quite for me, but they're not really sure if they should leave. Sometimes people may think, oh, I've done all this work to get here. If I leave now, then I'm giving up on myself. Or like, if you come from a place where maybe your whole family is looking up to, is like, has not that they're looking up to you to like help them, but everybody has thrown something behind you getting into a PhD program. There's a lot of guilt around that. How did you deal with that?
Yeah, that was a big thing, because when I was approaching the 6-month milestone of a PhD, and all those thoughts, yeah, they were in my head, because I thought I've worked for 8 years to get to this point, and everyone's, so proud and so excited that I'm in a PhD. And there was a lot of guilt and shame about wanting to admit that it wasn't quite for me and that I wasn't happy. And then there was also the aspect of letting my supervisor down, because she was really supportive, and, we had this great designed project, and it was slow to pick up speed, but it was a great project. And there was that guilt of wanting to follow through for her and wanting to follow through for everyone that believed in me and supported me to get to that point, but then not wanting to lose myself and my motivation in the process. So yeah, there was a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. But in the end, it was just, I decided that, it was a big commitment, a PhD, 3 to 4 years, possibly longer. And I thought, no matter what happened, I could make it work, and that there was no point in staying in something and being unhappy. Yeah, it was almost like a trade-off. It was either I'd feel guilty if I left, or I'd feel, unhappy and bogged down if I stayed. So it was kind of a push and pull, and in the end I ended up taking a leap and deciding to, pursue other avenues regardless.
Right,
Mm.
right, right. Thanks for sharing that, because I know that that's something, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
So what does a day in the life of Alana look like now?
Yeah, so I'm still relatively new to Pfizer, and every day is different as an MSL. So some days I'm out in the field meeting with doctors and talking to them about the latest data and any changes in data, any papers that have come out. At the moment, I'm actually in Melbourne attending a conference. So there's a lot of key opinion leaders here that we're kind of networking with and learning about and things like that. And then other days that are more laid back, or laid back is a loose term, but we're kind of upskilling in our therapeutic area so that we're better prepared for those appointments when they come up.
Yeah. And for the person that is completely uninitiated, I kind of touched on the definition of an MSL job, but how would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, I define it as someone who kind of represents the pharmaceutical company and is able to kind of have non-promotional discussions with key opinion leaders about new products that have come out. I mean, we talk
Yeah.
about established and new products, but we don't do it in a promotional way the way that the sales team do. So we kind of come in with a non-biased view, lay the land for them so they understand where we fit versus competitors, and then so that it assists clinical decision making.
Right, right, right. Thanks for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about how you landed this job, because I think getting into medical affairs and into this particular space can be a challenge for a lot of people. So what did you do? What was the application process like? Did you network your way to it? How did you go about searching for and landing this job?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think about it all the time because I'm very lucky to have gotten this job, as my first MSL gig. So I think when it comes down to it, I think having that foot in the door of medical information for a few years and kind of learning the basics over that time really helped. And also, when I got my first job in medical affairs, I got into gastroenterology, which is quite niche. And then when this job came up, I found it on LinkedIn. They wanted someone with experience with gastroenterology. So I think that really helped, having that year or so of experience in gastroenterology, because I think a lot of people come from other therapeutic areas that are broader. And then having that and a strong academic background, it helped.
Yeah.
As far as networking, I didn't have any specific contacts beyond having managers that were super supportive and able to write really nice reference letters. Yeah, it was kind of just luck. I found it on LinkedIn, had the experience, went for it. The interview process, that was intense, but I mean, the job itself is quite intense. So I understand. Like, it was actually ended up
Let's
being
talk
really.
about that then. Let's talk about how intense was it? Like what were the steps to get there?
Yeah, so obviously just, CV, cover letter, tailored to the job and then submitted. Had a brief screening of just basic, why do you want this job and what's your experience like? So it was a AI screening where you just recorded your answers and submitted them. And then I had a preliminary interview just with a couple of hiring managers. And that was just, I don't know if this is a universal interviewing technique, but the STAR technique, where they ask you behavioral questions, and then you've got situation, what is it, situation, task, action, result, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And then so that was that interview. And then the second interview was they gave you a clinical paper and you had to put together a PowerPoint and present it as if you were an MSL going to a key opinion leader and presenting data to them. And then after that was, decisions were made, and I got the happy call and the happy news. So 3 rounds of interviews, and
Three
here
rounds
we
of
are.
interviews. presentation.
Mm.
It sounds intense. So for those of you that are trying to get into this field, just know that it's going to be intense. Thanks for sharing that, Alana. What skills? Also, I wanted to go back and ask about the medical information. I know you had talked about getting into medical information. What is I think medical information is very similar to medical affairs, but again, I want you to define what medical affairs professionals do, because I think that that was your first foray into industry. And I think it
Yeah.
will help a lot of people just to have an idea of, well, what did you do in that job?
Mm. Yeah, so I was a medical information associate, and that was it was just taking calls and emails from doctors, patients, members of the public, and answering their questions. So I did that for a company who they were a third party, so they represented several pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
So we kind of got calls from different pharmaceutical companies asking about their products, and they could have been any questions, basic ones about formulation to more complex ones about drugs, drug interactions, drug food interactions. So it's very diverse and a very good, like, fantastic way to understand all of the different terms in pharma. And
Right.
then I did that for a couple of years, and then moved into medical affairs associate. So all the all the names are so similar, but this
Similar.
this one here was more behind the scenes, putting together PowerPoints and reviewing materials for doctors to present at meetings,
Right.
because I know it's different in America because you guys are allowed to advertise prescription medications to the public. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
In Australia,
Yes.
that's not allowed. So we have to follow very strict rules to make sure that what's in our promotional materials isn't really that promotional. So that was
Right.
more. It was almost like a marketing type job, and I had to kind of make sure that those materials were appropriate to be in public and they were tailored for the correct audience. And
Yeah.
then yeah, after that, then I'm here as an MSL.
So wonderful. Such a great journey. Thanks for sharing that journey. And also, I think it highlights the fact that you may have a certain career goal in mind, and you may not always start off with that, but you may start off with these little steps. I really loved what you talked when you said with medical information and medical affairs, it allowed you to, and specifically in gastroenterology, allow you to build that expertise in that area, so that when this position came along, it just seems so perfectly aligned. And I love it when things fall into place like that. I've had that happen to me once.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah. So now let's talk about some of the skills that have allowed you to clearly thrive in this space. I know for a lot of people in graduate programs, whether it's masters or PhD, we do a lot of reading, of research, and I think you've mentioned that a lot of presentation, a lot of communication. So what skills? And I'm just mentioning that based on what you just said, but what skills do you think have been pivotal
Mm.
to, number one, transitioning to this career path, and also on a daily basis that help you do a good job with what you do?
Yeah, okay. Um, I mean, communications, that, like you mentioned, that's the obvious one, like learning not even how to just present and be able to pinpoint the data, and like, pinpoint the data that's worth presenting and present it in an effective way, but also listening. So I think something that a lot of MSLs do is they just talk, like they talk at the key opinion leader, and they forget to kind of listen to what the key opinion leader wants. So there's that push and pull between listening and talking. And I think being able to strike the balance between that has helped. And then there's also patience. Like I think that it's easy to just want everything all at once and go full steam ahead. But I think patience has really it's helped me learn, because I used to get so frustrated at myself for not learning something fast enough. But I found that by being patient and allowing time and experience to speak for itself has really helped. So I think, yeah, going in, being able to communicate and be patient has helped the most. I'm trying to think what else. Problem solving is a big one as well, because there's a lot of scheduling appointments and working out how to get from A to B, and who in the industry knows each other and who works together, so that you can kind of organize how to see them all at once and work out effective ways of seeing more people in less time and being efficient. Yeah,
Right.
they're probably the top three.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. So, as we're sort of slowly coming to the end of our conversation. But one of the questions I love to ask is, now that you're a few years removed from leaving academia behind, maybe even leaving the PhD behind, doing what you do now, do you have any regrets?
Yeah, it's something that I ask myself all the time. I mean, short answer, no. I'm pretty happy, pretty happy with where I am. Because yeah, when I did make that decision, it was terrifying, because I thought, academia is all I've known for so long. I don't know what industry's like, but I'm glad that I took that leap of faith, and I'm really thankful for the companies that offered me jobs and they taught me the ropes. So yeah, long story short, no, I don't have any regrets. And sometimes I wonder what would have happened had I stayed in a PhD. I'd probably still be in it now, 3 or 4 years down the line. And yeah, I guess I wonder where I would have ended up. I wonder if I would have eventually made this decision after a PhD. But yeah, I'm glad that I made the decision when I did, and that I had the option to transfer into a master's and complete that. So I still got that experience in research, but not as, it didn't go for as long.
So do you interact with academia at all at this point in your career?
I mean, not really. Most of the KOLs are doctors and nurses out in the field. There is the occasional academic, but there was a brief period after my master's where there was still some outstanding publications that I coordinated with my supervisor on about that. But aside from that, I'm largely removed from academia now.
Yeah, absolutely. So for somebody that, wants to do what you're doing, and maybe, because I know in the US especially, a lot of MSLs have doctorates. They either have a PhD or PharmD, or maybe they are a doctor who no longer wants to work in the hospital. What advice would you give to somebody who has a master's degree and maybe is nervous about putting themselves out there for this type of role? I know that they're MS holders or MSc holders who have these types of roles, but sometimes they are intimidated. So what advice would you give them?
I mean, plain and simple, just go for it, because that's exactly
Yes.
what I did. I looked at the job ad and I thought, there's probably so many people with a PhD applying for this, people with doctorates, people with PhDs and doctorates, but you don't know unless you apply.
Yes.
And another thing that I just thought of with what you just said, this MSL role, I think that there's this preconception that you have to be extroverted to do it, and that if you're an introvert, you'll struggle. As a chronic introvert, I was worried about that in applying for a job like this, but I was attracted to the role anyway. So I kind of followed my gut, went for it. And I'm finding that now, yes, it's challenging, because there's a lot of interacting with people. There's a lot of introducing yourself at conferences that I always used to be too shy to do, but you learn and you'll be fine. Like if you're willing to kind of put on your extrovert hat while you're at work, you'll be fine. So don't be worried if you're an introvert, and don't be worried if you don't have a doctorate or don't have a PhD. Just go for it, and you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, this has been such a great conversation. Any last words of wisdom?
I mean, that's all I can really think of. Like, if you're thinking about being an MSL, I can vouch that it's a great job, very rewarding, very fast paced, and go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just go for it. Thank you so much, Alana. This has been such a great conversation.